What's going on, everybody? Once a few more people get in here, we'll start. We'll get to going. Guys, if you can, please go ahead and hit that like button. That helps other people find the stream faster. Alexander, what's going on? Hope everybody's doing okay. It's noon my time. I don't know what time it is for all of you guys, but having a little bit of coffee, having a little hemp smoke. If anybody has any questions to start off with, go ahead and drop them in the chat if you have any. Chris says, currently organizing living out of my car and hitting the dab pin, so I'm glad. So I'm glad to be tuned in. Well, thank you for being here, Chris. Indica or sativa kind of morning for you. So I always prefer sativa during the day. I always prefer sativa during the day because I'm one of those hippies that I have so much shit that I have to get done. I don't really subscribe to the whole weed makes you lazy thing. It's if you're lazy, you're lazy. I don't think that anything can make you more lazy than you already are, kind of thing. Buenos dias, Ian Quitner. What up, Wrangler? Gotta go to class in 20. All right, but bro, I hope being back's okay. I hope being back at school's okay. All right, family. Today, what we're doing, we're gonna talk about pacing and building your solos, because it's something that everybody has to learn to do. What's going on, Dan Weaver? So what I mean by that is when you're doing a solo, you don't want to bust your nut right out the gate. Depends. I know it always depends on like where in the song the solo is, and like how the feeling of the song is going. What's going on, Adaptive Manipulator? What's going on, L. McNally, something like that. Like everybody needs to know how to pace their solos out and then to build them up, because you want to start out, you usually generally want to start out more simple than when you end, but you can always, I like to do solos in kind of like a curve. I always kind of like to do them like that. I always like to start out simple, work my way up to more technical, kind of getting out there more, and then bring it back down to simple. And you'll notice that most jams are like that. Most jams start out like, and sometimes you can start them at a higher point. And I'm not saying don't do that. All I'm saying is that more often than not, you're going to want to build. You're going to want to start out with something more rudimentary, more simple, and then build to like your repeating lines or like your more more technical shit. You know what I'm saying? What's going on, CJ? What's going on, the Falcon? So just to like give you an example of what I'm talking about, I've got a loop of like Good Lovin' set up. So that's just an E, A, B, A, E, A, B, A, E, A, B, A. So what you would want to do, you're going to solo in E for this, right? You're going to kind of be going in between all those because all of those are relative to E. So what I would want to do there is I would probably see how simple it is starting out like that, but you always want to try to lead with emotion. Lead with emotion. Play like your mama just died, or somebody you really loved just died, or something. Like you need to be able to like pull something out of your heart when you're soloing, because it's not all just about knowing your scales. There's this ethereal point to being able to do like improvisational leads, like I'm sure all of you want to do, right? Like everybody here wants to like solo in a jam band or be able to improvise, but a lot of that comes from in here. A lot of that comes from in here mixing with here, mixing with these. So like it's unlocking that whole thing. And the pacing of it really depends on what you're trying to say, because you have to pick something to say. Like your music is a language. You speak it. You speak with your fingers and your tones. So in a lot of solos, they'll start with a slide into something, or they'll just start with a single note. Like, you know what I mean? Or some kind of like pull off or hammer on. But, you know, there's so many ways to skin a cat that I'm not going to tell you exactly how to do it. But if I only solo with minor pentatonic, which mode scale should I learn next to branch out? With minor, if you want to stick to minor, I'd say Dorian, because Dorian's like the Mixolydian version of minor. So if we're gonna do that good loving again, so we're gonna start super simple and just kind of build it up. So. And now I'm going to start doing a little bit more, like a little bit faster, like a few more notes. And you see how I started building up. Do I always come in on the root, or do I vary? I vary on it. It all depends. And just depends on, again, like, because once your vocabulary kind of opens up due to like chord inversions, whole, half, once everything opens up for you, it's really dealer's choice. Because usually and generally speaking, when you start up higher during your solo, you kind of want to work your way back down so then you can work your way back up, if that makes any sense. So I'll start not on the root, and then you guys can just kind of see how I'll work my way kind of up and then back down, okay? So... And then you can always add in those sixths. Those sixths were a huge favorite of Jerry's. And then never be afraid to like let it breathe. You can always stop for a second. Like, you don't have to do exactly what Jerry did, you know what I'm saying? Because there would be times where Jerry just didn't stop for a minute, but there are times where you need to let it breathe. That's what we're talking about, pacing. That's why we're talking about pacing. So it's like we can get... Like some well-placed pauses help a lot, because sometimes it's not just about what you're saying, it's also what you're not saying. Sometimes the pauses say more than the notes that you could have played in that moment, if that makes any sense. Does following the vocal melody have to do with pacing? Good question, Wrangler. Not necessarily. So that comes more with building, I think. So like and also it can, depending on if you're doing the vocal melody, let's say so for this, it would be like, maybe like, hold on. So it'd be like, got to have loving, you got to have loving, you got to have loving, got to have love, good love, got to have loving, good love. See what I'm saying? Like all that stuff like can matter. It's all about what you're wanting to say. So if you've got it in your head, so like all the time when I'm doing solos and stuff, I'm thinking a lot of the time I'm thinking of I feel like I'm talking. So like there are things that I'm saying with the notes that I'm playing. So Wrangler says, I feel like vocal melody parts act like a breath in the solo. Yes, absolutely, because you can always come back to that melody line. You can always come back to that vocal melody. When you're doing fast runs, are you ever playing or ever using a pattern? Yes, all the time. All any guitarist is ever doing is playing a pattern they know. So when I was doing those fast build-up parts, I'm using this E right here. We've learned this E before. So what I'm doing is I'm... Because again, you're just going, like we've said in the past solo workshops, all you're ever doing is soloing between the different inversions and versions of these chords up and down the neck. So if I'm going from this E, right, to this E, to this E, they're all E major. And what I'm doing is, so like... And so what I've done is I've just gone through 4 different versions of the E chord. That's it. But I'm just hitting the chromaticisms in between there because I know that that's what makes it kind of sound like Jerry. But also me. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure that I play more chromatics than Jerry does. Even though he does a lot. But that's mostly my style. Are these chromatic runs. So when you're doing that, I was going between this E, this E, this E, and then back up to this E. Right? What mode am I playing right now? Somewhere between pentatonic and mixolydian. And as far as that goes, I don't think about it. I don't think about what mode to play. I'm always going with what I think serves the song. And I think that if you're thinking of it as serving the song, it's not about, oh, I've got to get this lick out. Oh, I've got to make this solo real badass. Oh, I've got to look cool, or oh, I've got to sound the best. No, it's about what's going to sound best with this music. What's going to sound best for the song. Serve the song. Because you'll be elevated. Like if you're elevating the music, you will be elevated. You're elevating everybody around you, even the crowd. So it's like it's all about serving the song. That's why it's important with pacing and building your solos up. That's why it all works. So if we're gonna start kind of down low here, so if we're on, And like, don't be afraid to like jump around. Dingleberry, what's up, bro? I'm making you a mod right now, like we talked about. Boom. There you go. And don't be afraid to like go down to a different one because again, okay, so we're in E for this. And don't be afraid to like jump either down or further up because as long as you know your chord inversions, you kind of know where you're gonna go. So if I'm playing here, sorry, still early for me. Because all I did was slide from this E up to this E. Right? Because we know we have another E chord up here. So. You talking about those little triplet pull-offs? Like. All right, Wrangler, have a good class, buddy. So what I'm doing for that, how you get those little Jerryisms like that is you're really just hitting what you're pulling off. So if we're up here, so we're on the, we're up here, so you've got your E right here. And what I'm doing is, I'm just doing a pull-off. I'm just hitting it and doing a chromatic pull-off. 1, 3, and then down 1. So I'm basically doing a pull-off on 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's literally just chromatic little things. Or it's always all 3 of them or all 4 or whatever. So you're always just hitting once and pulling off. And like, you can't get the middle of the triplet to ring out. Well, it's such a passing thing that like, as long as you're doing it, it's gonna like auditorially like, you know, do its little like fallout or lead over or whatever. And also, guys, when you're soloing, like, taking these pauses, taking these, like, intentional pauses also help you kind of reframe the melody, kind of, like, reframe what's happening. So it'll also allow you to just kind of change things up a little bit. So... Did you see how I kind of just changed up how I was soloing? I just changed up the whole way I was doing it. So, we'll do that again. And you can always just add in little things that are gonna like kind of like amp it up and intensify it. You can always do that with like those little those kind of triplet things that I do. Or you can always do the You can always do those kinds of things to like build stuff up, and then you've always got your like your repeating lines that go. Yeah, B patch. I'm running on a Ventress reverb, so I've got a little bit of reverb on my amp here on the Milkman, but on my Ventress, I've got it on this really nice hall setting. So that's that. Now if I add the delay to it, this is what it sounds like. A little bit more. And don't be afraid to repeat. Repeating lines are great. Repeating lines help build things up. So like even then I was doing the build tension. And again, like it's really important to always be trying to say something. Like it's not about just hitting the notes that are right. It's about the way you hit them. It's not about the notes you hit. It's about how you hit them. So like a lot of this Jerry style or whatever you want to call Jerry style, it's mostly in your fingers. It's mostly in these fingies. It's about like the vibrato you can put on them. It's about the amount, the intensity, the attack on it. Like it's so much more than just knowing your modes and scales. That's why I tell you guys to not really worry about it. Does anyone know what scale mode he's playing in? It's like, so I'm playing, it's like E-mixo for the most part, or like I always range. Again, I don't really think about it when I'm doing it. I just do what sounds right to me. That's why I don't think about it. That's why you learn your chord inversions and your whole half method, and then you play to what makes sense in your head, because you always try to serve the song, you know? You pace it out, you take your time, like, and you build. You kind of go in this kind of like, this kind of camel hump of a solo. You know what I mean? You start out simple, you get more complex, you get more simple, back down, and then you end your solo. A lot of the times the jam will also kind of like get elevated and then come back down to settle back down into the next verse or the next song or whatever you're trying to do. But usually I'm somewhere between a pentatonic and a Mixolydian Dorian, depending on like whether it's a major or minor. No problem, ASB. And guys, if you haven't yet, please hit that like button on the stream. That helps other people find it. I just think it's really important for you guys to understand that's like, I want you to like serve the song into your hearts and into your head, because that's when it comes down to it. It's not about how long your solo is. It's not about like who you are in the band to people or who you are to the crowd or whatever it is. It's like, it's about how you serve that song, because if that song doesn't get served, you're fucked. You're going to get served. Oh, the boys got served down by the Save-A-Lot. I should make a Serve the Song t-shirt, because that's what it's about. Because this music is like, we're conduits for things. Like as soon as a guitarist that's an improv player takes the credit for what they're doing, they're wrong. Because it's the song. It's the song that gets, like I get elevated because of the music I'm playing. It's like this style that I play is able to be grafted onto whatever genre. So if we were to do like one of my favorite songs to solo over, I'm sure you know, is Sugary. And it's one of those things that's super easy. Out of all the notes in E major or mixo or any mode, what is the best place to stop as far as to create tension? Usually that half that kind of half step. So if we just kind of go to like an E, hold on, I'll just make a little loop again. I got rid of my good loving loop, so we'll just do like a little E thing real quick, like. And I mean, you're always going to want to resolve that tension, but to build that tension, and yeah, you're going to go for like those half steps, like those halves. Or what he's saying, the fifth. Yeah, like those fifths and stuff. Like those are what's going to like bring that tension in, kind of like make people kind of tighten up a little bit, and then you resolve to kind of like give it that release. So it'd be like, and you see like you're there, and then everything's okay. That your butthole has loosened. Let's see here. So, like, again, if we're going to do something kind of like, again, one of my favorites is Sugar Ray. So, and so now we're in B, right? So we're going to play in B mixo. So, like, do you see what I'm doing there? That's kind of the vocal line. That's kind of the, like, again, it's like you're just kind of making these things up as you go. That's what we're doing. We're pulling stuff out of the ether there. Pulling stuff out of the ether. Now, I know what I'm doing. I'm in B, so you've got your B. You got this B chord here, and you've got B right there. And you got B right there. Right? So if I'm wanting to play in B, I'm just going between those. And what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to pace it out and build it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off slow and longing. I love the term longing because a lot of this music is longing. Like there's longing for something, like your heart is screaming out for something, you know? So we start with that. We start here. I like to do this one. So that's vocal lines, so that, right? When they come to take you down, when they bring the wagon around. So like it doesn't even have to match up perfectly. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm not making it match up perfectly, but I am like deciding that I'm wanting to follow that kind of vocal line, right? So it doesn't have to match up perfectly, but as long as you're kind of like living within that, like that melody, like living within that kind of like that canter or that canon or cadence of like the lyrics or the melody or whatever it is, as long as you're within that, it's going to make sense to the people listening and it's going to make sense to you. So Again, never underestimate the power of a simple repeated line. Like Trey loved it, Jerry loved it, so like you should love it too. And anytime that I'm doing like those fast kind of build up things, I'm going to build up to maybe a single note hit or a bend or something. Like I'm never going to like sometimes you'll just keep those like. You're always going to want to like break through. You're always going to want to build something, because when you're building like that, you're building the tension, and you always want to have that kind of release, that bust through, that bust that nut. And a lot of the times I'll do that. I'll break through with a bend, with a really big bend. And that's more of a Trey thing than a Jerry thing. Jerry did do those bends, but he did more of like chill bends. And so the bends I like to do are like, and not that Jerry didn't do that, it just wasn't something that was like super, super in his style like it is mine. And Jerry also loved pre-bends, so you're bending before you hit the note. So you're kind of coming down into the note that you wanted. The best place to bend in major, so if you're doing a B major, you're doing this B major here. You know how you've got your B and E strings here. So you can bend on those. So you've got your whole, half. So on that, you always kind of want to bend to that next whole step. Now, Jerry did do half-step bends, but those are harder. Those are harder to do. Those take a little bit of finesse to just bend a half step. You really have to be listening, and you really have to have that locked in. So I would suggest learning your whole step bends first, and then kind of like learning to dial it back to a half-step bend when you're at that spot. Because again, you only want a half-step bend either up to something that you're going to want to hit. So see how just it's very subtle, just those little half step bends. Slimy Bread asks, so how might Jerry break through then? Okay, so Jerry, a lot of the times, so he'll start doing stuff faster. That's when he'll start doing that like crazy, like that tremolo picking, almost kind of like the shit that I'm not the best at yet. I'm still trying to figure that one out because that shit blows my mind. So he's like, that circular picking style. I'm trying to like get back into it. I used to be all right with it. And then something that Jerry would also do is he would do the thing where they call it, I don't know either. I'm trying to figure it out. It's just really fast. He's like anchored in to like a single string almost, and he's just like, if you can watch like, I think the Radio City Music Hall show from '80, like he does a really, like they get kind of close in on him while he's doing it, and you can kind of see how he's doing it, and it's just fucking ridiculous. Cocaine, guys. Fucking cocaine. But another thing he would do, they called it ringing the bell, or they call it ring the bell, something like that. So what he's doing is he'll like, because you know you've got the D shape of your chords, the D shape. So like, so you just, and what he would do is he'd get in here, he'd come up here so he could anchor his arm on his guitar. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about. So you've got a B here, an A here, and an E up here. So what he would do is he'd start hitting those. So be like, I know that's probably just gross to you guys right now, but without the band behind you, like really ramping it up, that's how he would kind of do stuff. And so that's kind of what he would do with those. And I'm sure you guys have heard me do that when I'm playing Sugary, like, and some of the other songs too. Yeah, that's the D shape. And so like up here you have a B in that D shape. And you anchor, you come up here on your neck. Because you're just trying to move within this tiny little area. So you're just working it back and forth. Working it back and forth on those last three strings. And it helps. And you can also do that kind of thing with just single notes, like. And you just come on the neck. And like, and your hand just kind of almost makes the shape that his used to too. Just when you're doing that. And then like anytime that you're doing that, you can always too tight and don't ring out properly. See, and flip to the A shape too. Yeah, so like if I was gonna go so. Yeah, you can totally do that. It just all depends on the song you're playing. Again, yeah, the E shape too. It's really whatever you want to work that into. So so for instance, we were doing like Franklin. So. So if you're going to do that with Franklin's, you'd be like. You could also do it. There's the D shapes of those. You can also do it here. So like. And so you can literally do it with whatever shape, as long as it sounds good. Just make it sound good. Just work it until it sounds good. And like these are all just things that you can throw in kind of like towards like the crux, towards like the peak of your solo. And that they also help you to bring it back down, because once you've gone that far and you're like hitting something that fucking hard, the only way to go from there is down. You can't just like make that more intense unless you're doing something sometimes in sugary. I'll do so like so what I'll do there is like, so if we're doing that ring the bell, if we're ringing the bell, so from there you can bring yourself up and then just like hit those bends. And then it just kind of brings you back, but you're on your descent at that point. So it's just another way to do it. It's another way to pace it out, because you always kind of want to have like a simple beginning and then work your way into more notes, get a little bit more technical, and then get crazy with it, get insane, pull out all your tricks, and then come back down. And like some people do that throughout a show. Like some people will like, the first 4 songs of the show, they're just doing super easy, super simple solos, just kind of like getting the pepper out there, you know what I mean? And then like towards the end of the show, they'll just start ramping up their solos and shit to where the last song of the show, of the set or whatever, is just like blowing everybody away. Teach Your Children by Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young had Jerry Garcia playing pedal steel guitar. He did, because Jerry had worked out a deal with Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. So Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, or Crosby, Stills, and Nash, they actually helped the Dead with their vocal harmonies on Working Man's Dead. And so kind of like the trade-off for that was that Jerry would play some pedal steel for him or some guitar for him, because he's also playing guitar on some of those recordings too, I believe. So guys, that's kind of the lesson today. I hope that the pacing idea kind of helps, and like to build these solos, you have all your different ideas. If you haven't gotten the whole idea of it yet, it's really just comes down to keep it simple, stupid, and then work your way up into the more technical things that like faster paced things, repeating lines, either like repeating arpeggios or repeating what was I gonna say? Fuck. I read the comments while I was talking and I got sidetracked. My bad. So you get to your repeating lines, repeating arpeggios, repeating triplets, repeating triads, like whatever you're gonna want to do. Like just remember though to just breathe and like leave. Sometimes the notes that you don't play say more than the notes that you would have played. So remember that too, and try to say something. Try to speak through your guitar, because it's a language. Don't just regurgitate shit. Try to mold it and change it to fit the song, because what are we trying to do? We're trying to serve the song, not ourselves. Always try to serve the song. Serve the song. If there's one thing that you get from this, pace, build, serve the song. Okay? Let's see here. Basic question. How did you learn all this yourself? Your mastery of theory and Jerry style is incredible. Okay, so first of all, I know nothing about theory. I know this much about theory, right? Like I kind of just make shit up as I go along and explain it to you guys the best way I can, because up until like the past year, I don't know how to say this stuff to people, because again, I'm not really a guitar teacher. I'm your friend that's trying to show you stuff. Like Michael Palmisano is a new friend of the channel. What up, Michael? If you're in here or watching this at some point, I'm sorry if this is like super sketchy to you, because you're an actual guitar teacher. But that's the difference, though, is that like I'm not Michael. I'm not Jeff. I'm not the Weeping Willow guy. I don't have this schooling background. I cut my teeth on the road. Like I was homeless for years. I dropped out of high school, and I was I cut my teeth playing on the street for money. That was how I got better. That was how I got good-ish, because I'm not the best. I'm not amazing. Like, I know I'm okay, but I'm not the best. I know I definitely have my own style, but that's from me doing years of like, well, if I don't play well, I don't eat today. So like, I learned all this myself by, first of all, like playing while on psychedelics. That helps. Like, I grew up with very similar influences that Jerry grew up with, because I grew up with an old dad. Like, my dad was older when I was born. He was like in his mid 40s. So like, I grew up listening to like old school Motown, R&B, old school gospel, like all the stuff that Jerry was listening to coming up. So like, I have that built in, that super emotional kind of like, just, it's hard to, it's almost like a soul vibe, but mixed with like Americana, folky, bluegrass kind of stuff. Because like my first project and like most of the music I wrote was like all folk based, like very heavily influenced by Bob Dylan and Robert Hunter. Like, so all that stuff just kind of accumulated into me kind of playing like Jerry. How often do they occur? These live solo workshops happen once every month. So it's usually the first or second week of every month, but I'll always let you guys know. So like, keep an eye on the community tab, cause I always make a post. It's not the notes you play that matters. It's the note I play. There you go, Kurt. That's hilarious. Let's see. Am I going to any Dead & Co shows? No, probably not. More than likely not. I work all the time, and it's just not my favorite. You guys want to see the build progress on the new guitar? Okay. So Wolf, old Beatrix, she's going to sit down for a second, and I'm going to show you guys Birdie. How about Fish? I mean, I love Fish too, but I'm probably not going to go see them. So guys, just a little thing about me is I would always rather go play music for people than pay to go watch other people play music, if that makes any sense. I know it kind of makes me sound like a dick, but with everything that I do, like, again, like Toby and I are responsible for like something like 40 hours of content a week. It's something stupid. We put out stupid amounts, or maybe like 20, like we almost put out like a full day of content each week. And that's not to mention the time that I spend like prep and editing and like also like all the other shit I have to do. I'd love to see a shakedown solo lesson. The phrasing is so far from my wheelhouse. I'm lost. Okay, like we can totally do something like that. And always don't bust your nut on the first solo of the night, on the first song of the night. That's true. Like, don't like keep that nut. You know what I'm saying? Edge yourself on these solos, boys and girls. Don't always go balls to the wall. So I've made some progress. Look at her. Look at her. Look at her. Ba-ba-bup. So this is Birdie. This is the guitar that I'm building. Okay, I would totally go see J-Rad, honestly. Out of all of everything that everybody's mentioned, it would be J-Rad. What I've done, what pickups do I have in it? These are Super 2s. All three of these are DiMarzio Super 2s. And that fat chunk of Purple Heart in the middle. And so you see what I've done here for I've got Nutric outputs or inputs, whatever you want to call them. And you see how I've just kind of like, dude, it's been so much to learn how to do all this woodworking, because I've done all of this by hand for the most part. All of this has been like hand, scalloped and hand sanded and everything. Steven, The Super 2s are really cheap right now. They're like $70 a piece on the DiMarzio website. I would always suggest buying directly from DiMarzio. It took them like 2 weeks to mail them out to me, but like they're usually $100 and they're selling them for like 69, $70. I mean, I got 3 of them. I got a cream one just to go on the top to just kind of like break it up a little bit. And as you guys can see, so like I've got my ebony fretboard. The ebony fretboard's just taped on right now because I still have I got some fine tuning to do on like the neck, on the neck portion, but I like to tape these on. Tape these on just so I could get like a positive, like, you know, just see if everything's straight. And then you've got like back panel opened up. You've got battery casing or battery housing. And then you've got neck here. And you can see I've got a little thumb indent down here for soloing, for like getting up here on the high ones. Really just up to the 24. But as you can see too, I've made this thing big. So I've made it big to fit my body. I've got the wing. I've got like the wing kind of cut, and I've got a belly ridge cut on it. And I love that I've been able to get these contours right. Because this was a huge learning curve, guys. I've never made anything like this before. I've done some woodworking, but it's been really, really hard, and it's still nowhere near done. Like everything is still at like 20%. Today I'm gonna figure out exactly where I want my knobbies to go, and I got to figure out where I'm gonna cut, because I want my strings to go as straight as possible. So I'm gonna figure out where I need to put those holes. And look at that volute. Look at that fat ass volute. I tried to go cripe with it, but I also wanted it to be like my own little thing. So I kind of went diamond shaped. Well, yeah, and I had to make her big because I'm big. Like I'm 6'5", guys. So like most guitars look tiny on me. So like I wanted to have a guitar that just looks right on me, that looks like it fits my body, you know? So I'm very excited. Let's see here. Burl's art, yeah, he does great. Like his guitars are awesome. The ones that he makes like out of fucking pencils and epoxy and shit. Let's see. Saw the Dead & Co. opener in Raleigh. It was amazing. Mayor was on fire. Touch of Grey was so appropriate to start off with. We will. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, that's solid. Like, again, they're fine. They're good. It's just like, to me, it's a cash grab. You know, because the boys are just trying to make money because they're about to die. They're trying to make money for their families. You know, so like whatever. I'm just not gonna be super stoked when Waldo buffer. Yes, I'm getting. Waldo actually sent me the buffer. He sent me the Spud too. So this thing on the inside is basically gonna be Rosebud, right? So Rosebud had 3 Super 2s and a unity gain buffer, which is what I'm using in here. And the F space and standard spaces for Super 2s. So I got the F space because so F space means fender spaced. So you have regular spaced, which would fit in like a Les Paul or maybe a PRS, something like that. But then you have the 25.5-inch scales for, because usually the like Les Paul and Paul Reed Smith are like 24 to 25. Is like 24 something inch scale length and then 25 inch scale length. But the Fender scale length is 25.5 inches. So you go F-spaced because the strings come out a little wider. So it's literally just like you should measure your pickups. You should measure the length in between, your little hex nuts here for your poles, because that's the difference. It's literally just like a matter of like millimeters that makes that difference. Am I going to use a blaster? I've got the unity gain buffer that's going to go into it, and that gives it enough boost. Let's see. Would you go there if Jerry was still with them? Well, yeah, I'd go see him if Jerry was still alive, because then it wouldn't be a cash grab, right? They would just be still playing the Grateful Dead music. The Tiger rewire soon. Nice. Well, I went for the Spud 2, and that was kind of off of his suggestion almost. You gonna set your own fret wires? Yeah. I'm gonna set the fret wires. I've got some let's see here. Oh, and I made my back panel yesterday. with a little bit of this wormy maple left over and a little piece of purple heart. And then it'll just kind of, I'm gonna do the inset, so like it'll just kind of get in there, wires. Lay down. So she's gonna do kind of like that. She's gonna look kind of like that, which I'm happy with. It's fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. I just didn't have any scrap of the wormy maple to get me there, so I just was like, okay, I'll put a stripe of purple heart in it. But this thing is like so super fucking skinny. I've never made anything this skinny out of wood. It feels so it just feels really fragile, and I thought I was gonna break it while I was making it, but it didn't. So I'm stoked on that. Yeah, and I think I've just got Dunlop. Yeah, I've got Dunlop AccuFret fret wire. I got the jumbo frets, so I'm gonna do that. You know, you got your like your 9-volt battery housing, which is going to power not only the spud buffer, right? See, fits in there. Not only is it going to fit the spud, it's not going to power the spud buffer. It's also going to power a jar drive that I'm putting in the guitar. There's going to be a jar drive inside my guitar. Let's see. You ever tuned down to E flat? No, I've never tuned down to E flat. Let's see here. Yeah, so that's Purple Heart, and like Purple Heart is one of the most. It's a really sturdy, strong wood. So like I wanted it to be like all the way through the middle. I wanted it to be a real fat piece because I always loved the way Purple Heart looked. I wanted it to be a real fat piece going through the middle. Keeping the wood grain finish. No, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stain it a really beautiful kind of like almost kind of like a teal or like a kind of like an aqua color. I'll show you. It's not going to be specifically teal, and it's going to be kind of like this really nice kind of middle ground, and it's going to be really thin and light, so you'll still be able to see all the grain through it, but like teal and purple are kind of like my colors. I really like those colors, so I'm going to try to do something kind of like ocean greeny, bluey kind of thing with it. And then, but the middle section, so this maple, the zebra wood, and the Purple Heart is all gonna stay the same. That's gonna be perfect. I'm gonna actually like lacquer them before I stain the body, so it won't take stain. Oh, this isn't a cigarette. This is a hemp smoke. But yeah, I feel you, bro. I'm quitting. I'm quitting tobacco. So be easy with me. This isn't a cig. It looks like one though, which is helping me quit. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So I have some scraps that I'm definitely gonna be using to test the stain with. Let's see. There's always noise coming from my cheap Ibanez. I guess I should take it to a luthier to ground it or something. Do you do all your luthering yourself? No. I actually have. So I live right down the street from a good friend of mine, two good friends of mine. Greg Hembry of Hembry Guitars and Chattanooga or Gig City Customs, and my guitar tech, also one of my best friends, Aaron Shepard, of Sheptronics, who made the jar drive and who's going to do all my wiring for me. So as far as that goes, take it to somebody, have them ground it for you, because it's probably like you probably need to have your stuff might not be shielded properly, or your ground wire might be loose and touching something it's not supposed to touch. So like, yeah, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for checking this out with me. Videos, I think as far as like the videos for the guitar build goes, I think I'm going to finish it first. I think I'm going to finish the guitar first and then see what I have to do. 'Cause like, thoughts on freak flag flying. I don't know. I don't necessarily know what that means, B-Patch. I may just be out of the loop on that. I don't know if that's an actual phrase or like what I think about people flying they freak flags. Cause I mean, let that freak flag fly. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody should tell other people how to live their lives, at all, especially the government, cause they're fucking terrible. But, oh, it's a podcast. Okay. I'd check that out. What was I saying? Oh, as far as like the guitar build videos go, I think I'm gonna finish it first and then compile everything because I've lost some footage and I just kind of want to see, because like I was trying really hard to document the whole process, but like there were times that like I would be working on it for like an hour, but my phone would stop recording because while I'm in the shop, I'm using my phone because my other cameras can get dust in them, and like the cameras on these iPhones are sealed, so like dust can't get in there and ruin them. So, I'm gonna try to figure out what all I have to show you guys. But I've got most of it recorded, but there are just some seemingly integral things that the footage is gone, and that sucks. But you guys don't suck. And thank you for everything. If at any point you want to tip me for these or tip me for anything, you can do that through the Venmo or PayPal, or whatever. Go join the Patreon. That's down in the description too. We've got a $2 tier that gets you into the Discord. For $20, you get all the extra content that we make. And that's a lot too. So every month you're getting an extra. If you do the $20 tier, every month you get an extra drink and a joint. You get flashback flicks where we watch 2 movies with you. And there's like a library of movies that we've watched with people. We're down in the corner talking over them, but it's movies. So like there's that. There's flashback flicks. There's Toby's show, Hot Shit, where every month he goes through and tells you whether or not music videos are hot shit or taking a hot shit. And then I do a show called Rock My Soul, where I listen to Grateful Dead songs with you guys, and then we break down what the lyrics mean. And that's pretty fun. When did I start the guitar? Hey, buddy. What's going on, Drew? I started the guitar about maybe a month ago. Maybe a month ago I started it, and we're getting there. We're starting to get there. I really love the recess on these. Like, I really love the way that looks. The way that came out. Yeah, bro, we love you, man. You know, you always just come in. Just come and go as you please. But we're always here. We're always happy to see you. Dude, I'm fucking stoked, man. Like, and all in all, this has probably cost me maybe $600. Maybe $600 all in. Like with buying the wood, buying all of the little components and the pickups. The pickups were actually the most. This is $200 in pickups. So the rest of it, the rest of the $400 is literally like everything else. So like $600 all in for a custom handmade guitar that's going to be probably appraised at like $5-6 grand. You know, it's literally all man hours. So like I'm still nowhere near done with like all of the little bits of sanding that I'm going to have to do to get everything perfectly smooth, perfectly flat. Am I using someone else's tool? Yes. Luckily, I have Greg Hembry down the street. But the only things that you really need are like a bandsaw. A bandsaw is super important to cut out the shapes of things. And some sanders. That's really like all I've been using. That and files and rasps to get the shaping done. Other than that, like the files and rasps, that's all by hand. And then it's all just sanding after that. So, and he's helped me with just kind of like figuring out what exactly to do, because there's a lot of little measurements that have to happen to make sure things go right. Which is why I've got the fretboard taped on right now. Because like I can pull it off, but I've got it taped on right now so I could figure out exactly how much more of the fretboard I have to take down and how much more of the neck I have to take down on one side to make it match the fretboard. And then I get to fret the fretboard, and then I get to glue it down, and then I get to figure out where my nut goes, and then I drill my holes and then figure out where exactly I need to put my saddle and my bridge, because I have to have all this other stuff done before I can put those on to make sure that the strings are going to go straight, my intonation is going to be proper, because like if I fuck up the sides of this, then it could be like to the left or to the right, and then you've got an angle on your frets, and then you're fucked. So there's so many little things that could just be like you're fucked forever. And I've only had one big body mishap happen, and that's this right here. I don't know if you can see it, but I had the router jumped up on me, and jumped up out of my access hole and like did this little kind of like this little ridge. But luckily it followed the contour of the body, and luckily it's on the bottom of the guitar, so you'll never see it. But I think I'm going to lean into it. I think I'm going to use this as kind of like my finger hole to get my my back panel off. I think that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, hope you guys are stoked on it. I hope you guys are excited to hear it, because I'm excited to fucking play it when it's ready. But I love you guys. Please hit the like button. If at any point you want to tip your boy, that's the way to do it for these lessons. Any of the lessons, you can always do that. Or go join the Patreon. Anything you want to do. But you guys are everything. You guys are the best. This doesn't happen without you guys. And always, like, let me know what you would like to learn. Like, let me know, like, what do you think the next solo lesson should be about? You know, so like leave that in the comments, whatever, wherever, whatever video you want to leave it on. But y'all are the best, and I will see you in the next one. I love you. Mwah.